So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to generate a CSV file or how to generate your own custom data, dummy data using Python. So you're going to see here that we have a descriptor here. So this descriptor is basically saying, oh, first name is going to be names, middle names is going to be names, salary is going to be number. So this will help us actually know what to generate. Then we have the function here called generate dummy CSV. So basically this takes a descriptor, the number of rows and the file name. So let's see what happens now. So let's give this a nice name like n.csv and let's click the play button here. So you see we have n.csv generated. So it's generated 20 rows for n.csv. So let's go back to app. So you see we could decide to change the numbers of rows and we will keep generating this dummy data. So this is made possible by the writer. So this writer actually writes to CSV. It opens a file and writes to CSV. And then we also have like some functions that here that are actually doing the generation, like generate names, generate salary, and this generate rand. And then we also have like the main generate dummy file that is making use of all those functions, and also the writer to CSV to actually generate the dummy data. So I'm going to be showing you how you do the whole of this. So this tutorial is assuming that you already have Python installed on your computer. So I'm going to be creating a new folder here. So I'm going to just be calling it data. So this is what I'm going to be calling my project for now. So I'm going to be opening it on VS Code. So this is me opening my project on VS Code. So I have my project open here. So the next thing we want to do is start developing our project. So one of the things we're going to do is that we're going to create a source folder. So I normally do this when I'm developing all my projects. So I create the source folder here. And this is where we're going to be creating our files. So the first file we're going to be creating is the functions that will actually do the generation. So we're going to call them funcs. So we're going to call them funcs.py. So this is where we're going to put all our functions that are going to do the custom generation of the custom generation for our generators. So here we can have as many functions as possible that will be helping us in the generation. So one of the functions I want to write here is the function to generate names. So I'm going to just say def gen underscore names. And then this function is going to be returning a random name each time it's being called. So the next thing we need to do, we need to have like a list of names. So we need to have like this list of names. And this one, for now, let's make it an empty list. And then we will have this function. So we're going to say, for example, it's going to return a random choice. So we're going to say random. So we need to import this random. So we need to come here. So Python has this module called random. So we're going to say import random. And then this random has this function in it called choice. So that's where we're going to pass the list of names in it. So we pass this list of names. So for now, I'm going to cheat a little bit by just going to Gemini and get the list of names so that I don't have to type the list of names that it's going to select from. So I'm just going to go to my browser and I'm going to copy this list of names. So I just had to ask the chat here that I need a Python list containing 200 names, English names. So, and then what I do is that I just need to replace it here. So if you can see here, Ethan wasn't putting in code, so I could wrap this in code. Although it repeats itself here a number of times, I could still decide to put it in code here also. So now we have this list of names. And then each time we call these functions, we will discover. So let's write the other function too. So the other function, this one is going to generate names. The other function is going to generate some random numbers. So basically what we can do is we can decide to, so let's define one that will generate a random number each time and another one that is going to generate like a range of numbers. So we're going to have this one as a gen rand. And then, so this one will generate a random number all the time. So all we need to do is just say return random. Then random has this thing called rand int. And we just need to call this function. So you see here, it returns a random integer in range of A and B. So basically what we can do here is particularly put like a start, or just put our A and B here and then pass it here. So we are just basically doing this. So we have A and B. So this one will generate some random number. So let's do something like the one that is going to generate like a salary. So we call this one gen, and then this one is going to generate our salary. So, and then if you want to generate some salary, we have some start salary and we have some end salary. So let's say we have some end salary. I'm going to generate this one a little bit different from the other. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to say it should return. So random dot, and then we're going to use choice. But now we're going to tell it to generate a range of numbers. So we're going to pass in range of numbers starting from the start and then to the end. So you see, it's going to take this range, and each time it will generate a salary starting from what we give it as start and what we give it at end. So let's go test out these functions now. These are our generators. We could have as many as we want. So let's create a file here inside of here called app.py. So we're going to call this one app.py. And then within this app.py, we want to import this function. So we say from functs, from the function file. So functs. So how did we call it? So functs. We want to import all the generators we created. So we're going to import the first generator is gen names. We have gen names. We have gen rand, and we also have gen salary. So we're going to test them now by just saying. So we're going to print like gen salary, and then we're going to provide it like a starting salary of 1,000 and then an ending salary of like 4,000. And let's see whether this works. So we see here we get, so each time we execute this, you see we keep getting different values of salary. We can also replace this for our gen rand. So this one, it might work almost exactly the same. So let's see. So you see we keep getting, so gen rand also will take the starting and ending point. So it works almost the same thing like, so let's see the gen names now. So gen names, in terms of gen names, we don't need to actually provide anything as parameter. So I'm going to take everything out here. So each time we get a different name. So you see, we got Joseph, we got Liam, we got Aurora. So now we are done with the functions that are going to help us generate. So the next thing is that we want to go ahead to build our generator. So we want to build the generator itself. So we want to build the data generator itself. So let's see what we're going to do. So we're going to create a new file here. So let's create a new file here. So this one is going to be called generators. This is what is actually going to generate the files. So we call this generator.py. So what are we going to pass to our function? So this is what I intend doing. So let me show you. So this is what we're going to do. So it's going to look like this. So these are the things we want to pass into the functions. So we want to pass in the description. So this description is going to be used to generate, for example, names. So this one will be the column name. So you pass it this as a column name, and what it should generate. So it should generate names. You pass middle name, it should generate a name. So we could even make this one like last name, for example. So this will be the column names, and this will be what it will be generating. And then the numbers of rows you want, of course, a name of a file. So when you get this done, so this is how we want the function. The function will take this description, it will take this number of rows and this file name, and it will be able to generate our CSV file for us. So let's comment this out. So you've seen what the parameters of our function will be. So now let's import from these functions. So let's just import the whole of this inside of our generators. So I'm just going to import the gen names, gen rand, and gen salary. Now we want to actually create the function that will do the generation. So we're going to say dev generate dummy. So we just call it generate underscore dummy. So because it's generating some dummy data. So now we want to pass in like our descriptor. So we want to pass in the number of rows it's going to generate. And then we want to also pass it the file name. So the last one will be the file underscore name. So now, so when somebody passes descriptor, so the next thing we want to do is that we will need to create a variable here to hold the data we'll be generating. So we'll call this one data equals to. So for now, I will just make the data we'll be generating look almost like this descriptor. So let me show you how it's going to look like. So I'm going to copy the descriptor. So it's going to be like a copy, almost like the descriptor, but the only difference now is that instead of having like a single value here, it's going to have a list of values. So it's going to have something like this. So it's going to have this side being list of values. And then for salary, for example, if the numbers of rows is 2, then it's going to generate like 1,000, 5,000. So, and then for the last name, it's going to generate like some name and some name here again. So let's say this is a name and this is a name. So for this one is the row number is 2. So this is what we want to get at the end from this function. So we want to generate this dictionary. So this dictionary is what we will now use later on to generate the file. So the way we can also do that is just create a copy of this description. So we're going to create a copy of this description. So let's go do that in code. So I'm going to also comment this out. So I'm going to create a copy of this descriptor here so that it's easy for me. So I'm going to say descriptor.copy. So it has this copy function here. So now we've copied this description. So the next thing we need to do is go through this description. So we're just going to loop through the descriptor. So we're just going to loop through the description. So we're going to say for key, because we know the descriptor is a dictionary. So we say key value in our descriptor dot items. So this is what we're going to do. And then we're going to check our types. So we're going to do something like this. So I want to show you what we're going to do. So we're going to say, for example, okay, let me just shorten it to like key and value. You'll still understand what to say. So for key and value in dig.item. So for example, now what we need to do is check for if the key, if we want to generate a name. For example, if the person decides to provide a name. So if the value, that means this part is showing names. So if it's names, we want to create a list and populate it with a number of names that matches the number of rows. So that's what we're going to do here. So in order to do that, we need to say, okay, if the person supplied a name or a number, so this is what we're going to do. So I'm just going to save our time here by just giving us how this functions is going to look like. So it's going to be like if it's a name, so we are going to be having this function here called generate name. So in this case now it's going to be generate underscore names, and this one is going to be gen underscore. We can use rand, for example. So this is what will generate the salary. We can either use rand or sal. They are actually doing the same thing. So you see what's happening here. So here we are actually generating the name for I in range of the number of rows. So it's going to populate this. So this function you're seeing is the same thing. So this is the same thing like this. So let me go up here and show you. So this function is the same thing like having an empty list. So having an empty list like this. So let me take this one. So having an empty list like J equals to this empty list. And then when you have this empty list, the next thing is that you want to have the for I in range of this. And then you want to append. You want to append to J. So you want to do J dot append. And then you want to provide the generator function. So it will generate names and attach to this. So instead of writing the whole of this, we just have this. So you see, so it's going to generate these names each time and then put it in this same list in place here. So now if it's numbers, it's going to also generate. So let's see an example of how this is going to work, whether it's going to generate that dictionary. So the next thing we need to do here is, of course, just print the data. So let's just say print our data. So when we decide to print this data here, let's see exactly what is going to happen. So I'm going to exit this. So let's go and see how this function is going to work. So we go to app. Now we don't want to test the generators anymore, but we want to test the function. So we want to say import generators. So in the generators, we want to say we want to print. So okay, because we already have a print statement there, so we want to do generators dot. Now we want to get generate dummy. You see. So now we need this descriptor. So we need this information. So I'm just going to get them here so that we don't have to type them again. So now we need this descriptor that have first name will be of type names, middle name will be of type names, and salary will be of type numbers. And then the numbers of rows we want to generate. And then in this case, we don't, we will just provide the name of the file, but it's not going to be used. So we just pass in that descriptor here. And then the next thing we provide is the number of rows. For example, we just pass in this number of rows we defined on top there. And then we also pass in the file name. So we pass in the file name. So let's see what happens now. So when we execute this, so look at what happens. You see, it's being printed. So let's make it a small one, like 2, so that we can be able to see it. So let's change this one to like the number of rows to 2. And then let's see exactly what we're going to get now. So it's easy to understand what's happening. So now you see, we have first name, and then we have 2 different names generated. We have middle name. We have 2 different names generated. We have salary. We have 2 different salaries generated. So this is what we want. So the next thing is that we want to take that dictionary that's been generated by this function here, this data, to actually write it into a file. So in order to do that, we need to create another file inside of here called writers. So this will be our writers.py. So this is where we actually put a function that writes to CSV. So that function is going to take this data that looks like this. So this function is going to take our data. So it's going to take a dictionary. So this is going to be data. So this is how our data that we're going to supply to the function is going to look like. So it's going to take this data and then write this data into a file. So the next thing we need to do is that in order to be able to achieve that, I'm going to comment this one out. So we need to import the CSV module. So we need to say import CSV. So this is what we need to do. So when we import the CSV module, we also need to define the function called write to CSV. So we need to define that function. So we call this function write to CSV. So in this function, we need to pass in that data. So the data and also the file name. So we need a file name that we will actually write the file to. And then the next thing we need is we need the number of rows. So I also need the number of rows here. So what do we do now? So we need to open the file that we want to write into. In order to do that, we use this context manager with, and we say open. So we open the file, and then we open the file as CSV file. So we are opening the file with a handle of CSV file. So now we need to populate. What are we actually opening? We're opening a file that has a name. So we provide the file name of the file we are opening, and then we are opening the file so that we could write to it. So the next thing we need to do, of course, is provide the mood and the new line. So the mood is like we want to write. We want to write. You could read, so you could see the different auto suggestion feature you're helping us. So what are you writing? You're writing text. So now we can put W or WT. It still means the same thing. So the next thing here, we can also provide the new line. So we could say new line, and then this one we could just make it to some empty. The new line, we just want it to be empty here. So this is how you open the file for writing. So the next thing now is that you need to actually start writing the file. So in order to write the file, we will be creating a writer. So a writer is what will help us to write to the file. So here we'll be using a special writer here. So we'll say our writer will be equals to CSV dot, then you see there are dict reader and dict writer. Because we open it for writing, we are writing the file, we use the dict writer. So in the dict writer, we are going to provide the file we want to write to, which is the CSV file that we've opened here. So we provide that, and then the field names. So we need to provide the field name. The field names are like, let's look at it more like the fields, like the columns that we will be writing to. So in the field names now, we want to provide the field name should be a list here, and then we want to provide the dictionary, this data.keys. So the keys of this dictionary, remember this first name here and middle name here and salary will be the field name. So we need to provide it here. So how do we do that? So we just say the data.keys. So we just provide the data.keys. This will actually change everything into a list. So now we have this writer set up here. So the next thing we need to do, of course, is to write the header. So now we now start using the writer. So we now say writer dot, then we write header. So you see, so this is going to write the header of the file. So if we execute this one, now it will write the header, but it won't actually write the file. Now is the time to write the file. So we want to write the file. So in order to write the file, we can do like writer. So because it's a dictionary writer, it's going to take a dictionary. So we either need to do writer dot write row or write rows, multiple rows. But for now, we'll be writing multiple rows. That's why we have to use a for loop. So that for loop will be equal to the numbers of rows we want to write. So that's what we'll do. So we'll create a for loop and say for row. So we just say row in, you see, a range of number of rows. So we just say this so that it will write this number of rows. The issue now is that what are we going to write? So we are going to also be writing each row. So we'll be writing each row as a dictionary because this is a dict writer. So the next thing we need to do is provide the writer dot, then we need to provide the write row. So writer dot write row. So and the row will be a dictionary. The issue now is that how do we extract each row to be written from this data? So what we are going to be doing is to provide each row. If you look at what we have here, so let's look at it very well. So So we have 3 columns. So what we need to do is provide a dictionary that will look like this. So we need a dictionary that will be like, so we have like, let's say first name. So we have like the first name here, and then let's say, for example, and then we have column, what the first row will represent, like a single element here. So in that case, it will be this list, the first element of this list, Scarlett. So here will be like first name. So this is what we want to write. So we want to put this as first name, and then this other side will be Scarlett for the first time we write. So we do this. And then we also do for the middle name. So middle name will be here. And then we provide, we're also going to provide Sienna here. So, and we do the same for salary. So this is how the first row we are going to write is going to look like. So we use Sienna, and the same for salary, we provide this first one. So this is what we want to write in each of the instance. So in order to achieve this, we need to come here and say what we want for the row. So what I'm going to do is that, so I actually want a key, and I also want a value. So I want this key and value. So I want the key and value, but for the value, I don't want the whole list. You see how it looks like. So I don't want this entire list to be written. I actually want it to be written one after the other. So I want to get Scarlett first. So, and this Scarlett, the index here is 0. That's why I will now get the value of 0. And then this is going to happen for each and every item in this data. So that's why I'm going to say, then I'm going to continue by saying for the key, which is k. So let me make it like complete key here. So which is going to be for key, comma, value in the dictionary, which is going to be data dot items. This is similar to what we did for the list comprehension. So where we did, so this will create a dictionary here for every key and value, for key and value in the data dot item. So this is what they call a dictionary comprehension. So you could check it out on how to do this. So this will take the key and take the first element. So you see, so this 0 now, we will not hard code 0 here. We'll actually put the row. So this is what will happen. So because so for each of the, it will extract. So this will be for row 1, this will be for row 2. So it will keep extracting different rows for the key and value in this dictionary. So now we are done. We are done with this write to CSV function. So let's go use it in our generator. So what we will do, instead of just printing the value, we will import that function here. So I'm going to say from, in this case now, from our writers, we're going to import write to CSV. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to use it here. Instead of printing here, we're going to use our write to CSV, and then we're going to provide it our data, and then we also provided our file name, and then the last thing we also provided the num rows. So you see, this is going to come from the top here. So you see, we provided the data. The data is what we actually compute by running all these functions that actually generate the data. And then the file name also comes from here, and of course the number of rows. So when we are done with this, let's go test it to see how this is going to work. So now we're going to go back to, let's just take all this dummy data. This was basically here to help you understand what is going on. So now we go to our app. So in our app, we don't need to change anything here, but now instead of printing the dictionary like it did earlier, it will actually generate the file. So let's test this out and see. So we just click here and let's see. See, we have our file here generated, you see. So let's increase the number of columns we want to generate. For example, I want to generate 20, and let's see what happens. So now we execute again. So we see check. We now have 21, of course, plus the header. So this is how you go about generating dummy data. So you just have your generator functions here. So functions that will randomly select values, and then you have your writers here. So you could write to CSV, you could create other writers depending on the kind of format of file you want to write. And then you also have like the main functions that actually do the generating of the dummy data. So you could say, for example, this one could be generate dummy CSV because it's using the CSV writer. So we could say generate dummy CSV. And then we just need to make sure that when we're using it, we also make sure that the name here is correct to generate dummy CSV. So this is how you go about doing it. So if you like this kind of content, that just little small projects like this that actually show you how to do things that you commonly do as a data engineer, as a data analyst. So just get to like this video, and you can also comment and tell me what you want to see. Thank you for listening, and do have a wonderful day.